The words hit harder than a slap. "You're mentally incompetent, Dad." My son Nathan, the boy I raised alone, the kid I worked 3 jobs to put through college, was standing in my living room declaring me unfit. His wife Britney hovered behind him, already eyeing my furniture like it was hers. They expected outrage. They expected tears, confusion, begging. Instead, I nodded. "Whatever you think is best, son." Because tucked in my shirt pocket wasn't just a pen, it was a recorder. 20 minutes of greed, manipulation, and casual cruelty, captured in crystal clear audio. The same pen I once used to design bridges was now building a different structure. Their downfall. Nathan thought he'd locked me away. Britney thought she'd claimed my home. What they didn't know was this. My mind was sharper than steel, and I was about to prove it, in the most devastating way possible. If this sounds familiar, hit that subscribe button, because family betrayal stories like this one are exactly why this channel exists. The Golden Years Care facility smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. Nathan had chosen the cheapest private room they offered. 12 by 14 feet, beige walls, single window facing the parking lot. $8,500 a month. "This is perfect for you, Dad," Nathan said, setting down my single suitcase. "Much safer than rattling around that big old house." That big old house, the one I'd designed and built with my own hands in 1987. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, situated on 2 acres in Riverside County. Current market value, $1.2 million. Nathan knew those numbers by heart. "The staff here specializes in memory care," Britney chimed in, fluffing the thin pillow on my narrow bed. She was already wearing a different purse. Coach, probably $485 based on the leather quality. Funny how her shopping habits had picked up since the guardianship papers were filed. "I don't have memory problems," I said quietly. Nathan exchanged a look with his wife. "Dad, we've been over this." The confusion, the forgetting names, leaving the stove on. I never left the stove on. "See, this is exactly what we're talking about." Nathan pulled out his phone. "I've already contacted a real estate agent, Henderson Properties. They think we can get the house on the market by Friday. My house on the market in 4 days." I watched Britney run her fingers along the windowsill, calculating. She'd probably already picked out new furniture for what she assumed would soon be their master bedroom. "The property taxes alone are eating up your fixed income," Nathan continued, scrolling through his phone. "Plus maintenance, insurance, utilities. It's financially irresponsible to keep you there. Financially irresponsible coming from a man who leased a $73,000 BMW X5 at $892 a month." "Where will the money go?" I asked. "Into a managed account for your care." Nathan didn't look up from his phone. "Don't worry about the details, Dad. We've got everything handled." "A managed account. Handled by whom exactly?" I nodded slowly, playing my part. That sounds wise. But here's what Nathan didn't know. What neither of them knew. 3 weeks ago, I'd hired Kara Stone, the best estate planning attorney in Riverside County. $2.50 an hour, worth every penny. We'd spent 6 hours reviewing every document. Every clause, every contingency in my family trust, especially the mental competency clause. "Mr. Thompson," Kara had said, spreading the 47 pages across her mahogany conference table. "This trust was brilliantly constructed. If anyone ever tries to declare you incompetent for financial gain, they automatically forfeit their entire inheritance." The irony was beautiful. The very act Nathan was committing to steal my money would cost him everything. But that wasn't even the best part. "There's also this provision," Kara continued, pointing to page 34. "Any attempted financial exploitation of the grantor, that's you, triggers an immediate forensic audit of all related parties. Bank records, spending patterns, communications, everything." I'd been recording Nathan and Britney's conversations for 3 weeks. 23 hours of audio files, all time-stamped and backed up to the cloud. Every greedy comment, every premature celebration, every cruel joke about my supposed decline. "The important thing," Nathan was saying now, "is that you're safe and comfortable here. This is what Mom would have wanted." Mom, he was bringing up my deceased wife, to justify stealing my home. The woman who'd made me promise on her deathbed 5 years ago to never let anyone take advantage of my kindness. "I'm sure she would have," I said. But what I was really thinking was, "Nathan, you have no idea what's coming." The next morning I called Kara Stone from the facility's payphone, one of the few places they couldn't monitor my conversations. "It's time," I told her. "Activate the clause." "Are you certain, Edric? Once we trigger this, there's no going back." I looked around at the institutional beige walls, the narrow bed, the view of the parking lot, where Nathan's BMW sat gleaming in the morning sun. Tomorrow he'd probably drive it to my house, to meet with real estate agents, maybe swing by the bank, to check on what he assumed were his future assets. "I'm certain." "Very well, I'll file the motion this afternoon. The trust's mental competency provision will be invoked within 24 hours. After that, it's just a matter of time." Time? Nathan thought he had plenty of it. Thought he could warehouse me in this sterile room while he divided up my life's work. He was about to learn That time was the one thing he'd completely run out of. As I hung up the phone, I could almost hear the clock ticking. 72 hours from now, Nathan's phone would start ringing with calls he never expected. The real surprise was waiting in my safety deposit box at First National Bank. Documents that would change everything. Evidence that would expose not just the depth of his greed, but the criminal lengths he'd gone to in order to steal my home. But that's a story for tomorrow. Tonight, I had to play the confused old man, just a little while longer. Wednesday evening, Nathan called the facility's main line. I was sitting in the common room, pretending to watch Wheel of Fortune with the other residents. The nurse handed me the phone with a sympathetic smile. "Hi, Dad, just checking in. How are you settling in?" His voice had that fake, cheerful tone people use when they're trying to sound caring, but really just want information. "I'm adjusting," I said, adding just the right amount of confusion to my voice. "That's great to hear. Listen, I wanted to let you know we had the house appraised today. Henderson Properties thinks we can list it for $1.3 million. Maybe even 1.4 if we stage it right. 1.4 million. He was already inflating the numbers, probably planning to pocket the difference. That seems like a lot of money. It is, Dad, which is why it makes sense to sell now while the market's hot. We can invest the proceeds in something more stable for your care. Something more stable like his checking account." "Nathan," I said, "I've been thinking about Mom's jewelry. Her wedding ring, the pearl necklace from our anniversary." "Oh, don't worry about that stuff. Britney's already packed it all up. We'll keep it safe." Britney was keeping my dead wife's jewelry safe. How thoughtful. "And my tools. I had some expensive equipment in the garage." "Already handled, Dad. We donated most of it to Habitat for Humanity. Got a nice tax write-off. You should be proud. You're still helping people build homes. My tools, my Snap-on wrench set, $2,300 retail. My Festool circular saw, $849. My grandfather's hand plane from 1952, priceless. All donated for a tax write-off I'd never see." That's very thoughtful. "We're trying to make this transition as smooth as possible. Speaking of which, I have some paperwork for you to sign. Power of attorney stuff, banking authorizations. I'll swing by tomorrow afternoon." Banking authorizations, the final piece of his puzzle. "Of course, son. Whatever you need." After I hung up, I walked back to my room and retrieved my recording pen. 23 minutes and 47 seconds of Nathan, discussing the sale of my house like it was already his. Perfect. But the real gem came later that evening. I'd learned that the facility's walls were paper thin. From my bed, I could hear Nathan and Britney talking in the parking lot below my window. They thought they were being discreet. I pressed the pen against the glass and hit record. "Can't believe how easy this was," Britney was saying. "I thought he'd put up more of a fight." "I told you he's completely gone," Nathan replied. "Did you see him today?" "Just sitting there staring at the TV. It's actually kind of sad." "Sad but profitable. When do we close on the house?" "Henderson thinks we can have it under contract by Monday. Cash buyers are already sniffing around. And the bank accounts. That's tomorrow. Once I get power of attorney, I can move everything into the joint account. Clean and simple. Joint account." They weren't even pretending. This was about my care anymore. "How much are we talking?" Britney asked. "The house is obvious, but Dad's been squirreling money away for years. I'm thinking there's at least 200,000 in various accounts, maybe more." 200,000. Nathan had no idea about the trust. No clue that the real number was closer to 5 million in total assets. He was planning grand theft based on incomplete information. "What about that weird lawyer he mentioned?" "Kara something. Carrara Stone." I called her office. She wouldn't tell me anything about Dad's affairs. Client confidentiality and all that. But it doesn't matter. Once I have power of attorney, she has to deal with me. That's where Nathan was wrong. Kara didn't have to deal with anyone but me. And tomorrow she'd be filing some very interesting motions with the court. "You know what the best part is?" Nathan continued. "He actually thanked me yesterday. Said he was grateful. We were taking care of everything." They both laughed. Actually laughed at my supposed gratitude for their theft. "Your dad was always too trusting," Britney said. "Remember when he lent us $15,000 for your car? Never even asked for it back." $15,000? I'd forgotten about that loan from 3 years ago. Never repaid, never acknowledged. Just another example of Nathan's attitude toward family money. He won't need to worry about money. "Where he's going," Nathan said. "Golden Years has a memory care wing. Once his condition deteriorates a little more, we can move him there. Medicaid will pick up the tab." Medicaid. They were planning to spend my money, then dump me on government assistance when it ran out. "How long do you think we have?" Britney asked. "With Alzheimer's. Could be anywhere from 2 to 10 years. But honestly, I think the stress of the move might speed things up." He looked pretty defeated today. Defeated? If only they knew what was really going through my defeated old mind. As their voices faded and car doors slammed, I stopped the recording. 34 minutes and 12 seconds of pure gold, evidence of premeditation, conspiracy, and criminal intent. Tomorrow Nathan would arrive, with his power of attorney documents, expecting me to sign away my life. Instead, he'd discover that his inheritance had just evaporated into thin air. They were about to discover the trust's special clause and learn that underestimating a structural engineer was the most expensive mistake of their lives. Thursday morning, March 14th, 9:15 a.m. I made the call that would change everything. "Kara, it's Edric. Are you ready?" "The motion has been filed," she said. "Judge Harrison will review it this afternoon. Once he signs the order, the trust's mental competency clause becomes active immediately." "What exactly happens then?" "Nathan loses his beneficiary status permanently. The $4.8 million in trust assets will be frozen pending a competency hearing. And Edric, there's something else. The forensic audit provision I mentioned. It's already begun." My heart was pounding, but not from fear, from anticipation. "What did they find?" "Let's just say your son's financial activities over the past 6 months paint a very interesting picture. Unauthorized withdrawals from your joint checking account, forged signatures on 3 separate occasions, and that $15,000 car loan Britney mentioned, he's been telling creditors it was a gift from his wealthy father's estate. Forged signatures. He'd been stealing from me, longer than I thought." "How long do we have?" "Nathan will receive official notice by certified mail tomorrow morning. But here's the beautiful part. He won't understand what it means until he tries to access your accounts. The bank has been instructed to freeze everything at 5 p.m. today. 5 p.m. In 8 hours, Nathan's entire plan would hit a brick wall." "There's one more thing," Kara continued. "I've been in contact with Detective Richard Hayes from the Elder Abuse Unit. He's very interested in those recordings you've been making." Detective Hayes. I'd read about him in the local paper. 30-year veteran, specialized in financial crimes against seniors. Conviction rate of 87%. "What does he need from me?" "Just keep doing what you're doing. Act confused. Let them continue their charade. Every conversation they have now is another nail in their coffin." At 2:30 p.m., Nathan arrived right on schedule. He was carrying a leather portfolio, probably new, probably expensive, and wearing his best suit, the performance of a beautiful son, handling his father's affairs. "Hi, Dad. How are you feeling today?" "A little tired," I said, shuffling my feet slightly. "These medications make me foggy." "That's perfectly normal. The doctors say it takes time to adjust." He sat down and opened his portfolio. "I brought those documents we talked about. Just a few signatures, then everything will be taken care of." He spread 5 documents across the small table in my room. Power of attorney, healthcare directive, property transfer authorization, bank account management agreement, trust beneficiary designation. All the legal tools needed to steal my life's work. "This first one just lets me help with your banking," Nathan said, pointing to the power of attorney form. "Pay bills, manage investments, that sort of thing." I picked up the pen, my recording pen, and pretended to read the document. "It says here, I'm giving you authority over all my financial accounts." "That's right. It'll make things much simpler." "And this one?" I pointed to the property transfer authorization. "That's just so I can handle the house sale. All the proceeds will go directly into your care account." Of course, the same care account. He had discussed moving to his joint account with Britney. "Where do I sign?" Nathan's eyes lit up. He'd been expecting this moment for weeks. "Right here, Dad. And here, initial this page." I held the pen over the signature line for a long moment. Nathan was practically holding his breath. Then I set the pen down. "You know, son, I'm feeling a bit confused today. Maybe we should wait until tomorrow." "When my head is clearer." The disappointment on Nathan's face was immediate. "Dad, we really need to get this done. The real estate agent is expecting to list the house on Monday." "Tomorrow," I said firmly. "I want to read everything one more time." Nathan forced a smile. "Of course, whatever makes you comfortable." But I could see the frustration in his eyes, the impatience. He was so close to getting what he wanted, and his incompetent father was being difficult. If only he knew what was happening. At exactly 5 p.m., as Nathan packed up his documents, I glanced at the clock on my nightstand. 4:47 p.m. In 13 minutes, every bank account he was planning to access would be frozen solid. "I'll see you tomorrow, Dad. Same time." "I'll be here," I said. "Oh, I'd be here all right." But tomorrow, Nathan would be dealing with a very different father than the one he thought he knew. 72 hours later, Nathan's phone would start ringing with calls he never expected. Bank managers, lawyers, law enforcement. But the real shock was still coming. Because what Nathan didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that every signature he'd asked me to make would have been a felony. And I had it all on tape. Friday morning, 8:42 a.m. Nathan's first panic call. "Dad, there's some kind of problem with your bank accounts. They're saying everything's frozen." I was sitting in the facility's common room, playing my part perfectly, Confused, helpless, concerned. Frozen? What does that mean? I don't know. Some legal hold or something. Did you talk to any lawyers recently? Lawyers? No, I don't think so. My memory isn't very good anymore, Nathan. Right, of course. I could hear him breathing heavily. Look, I'm going to sort this out. There's probably just some paperwork mix-up. But there was no mix-up. At exactly 5 p.m. the previous day, First National Bank had received a court order, freezing all accounts associated with Edric Thompson, pending a competency investigation. Every checking account, every savings account, every CD, even the safe deposit box. Nathan had no idea what he was up against. The second call came at 11:15 a.m. Dad, I'm at the bank. They're saying there's some kind of trust issue. Something about a mental competency clause. Now I could hear real fear in his voice. I don't understand these things, son. Can't you handle it? That's just it. They won't talk to me. They want to speak with you directly. And they're asking for Carasone. Carasone? The lawyer Nathan had dismissed as unimportant, just 2 days ago. Who's Kirstone? That's what I'm trying to figure out, Nathan snapped. Then caught himself. Sorry, Dad, I'm just frustrated. This is all very confusing. Confusing. That was one word for it. The third call came at 2:30 p.m. This time, Nathan sounded desperate. Dad, Henderson Properties had to pull the house listing. They're saying something about a legal cloud on the title. The buyers are backing out. The house listing gone just like that. What does that mean for us? I don't know. Nathan was practically shouting now. Nobody will tell me anything, because I don't have power of attorney yet, but they won't let you sign the power of attorney because of some competency hold. And he stopped mid-sentence. I could almost hear the wheels turning in his head. Dad, did you do something? Did you call someone? I'm just an old man in a nursing home, Nathan. What could I possibly do? But that evening, Nathan got his answer. At 6:47 p.m., a certified letter arrived at his apartment. I know the exact time, because he called me immediately after signing for it. Dad, I just received something from the Riverside County Superior Court. It's addressed to me personally. What does it say? I heard papers rustling, then silence. Long, terrifying silence. Nathan, are you there? It's about the trust. Dad, it says here that any beneficiary who attempts to declare you mentally incompetent for financial gain automatically forfeits their entire inheritance. I don't understand. It means you just lost everything. The house, the trust money, all of it. 4.8 million. The first time Nathan had ever mentioned the real amount. He'd known all along exactly what he was trying to steal. But that can't be right. I said, you were just trying to help me. That's exactly what I was doing. Nathan's voice cracked. This is insane. You're not competent to make these kinds of decisions. And there it was. Even faced with losing everything, Nathan couldn't stop himself from doubling down on the lie that had destroyed him. Maybe you should call that lawyer. Carstone. I tried. Her office says she can't discuss your affairs with anyone but you. But Dad, you're in no condition to... To what, Nathan? The question hung in the air. He'd painted himself into a corner. If I was competent enough to meet with my lawyer, then his entire guardianship case fell apart. If I wasn't competent, then he had no right to know anything about my affairs. I'll figure this out, he said finally. There has to be some kind of appeal process, some way to fix this. Fix this, as if his attempt to steal my home was just a minor paperwork error. After he hung up, I walked to my window and looked out at the parking lot. Nathan's BMW was gone, probably repossessed given his financial situation. Without access to my accounts, he couldn't make his lease payments. But the real shock was still coming, because tomorrow Nathan would discover that losing his inheritance was just the beginning. The forensic audit was about to reveal something much worse than greed. It was about to reveal multiple felonies, and Detective Hayes was very good at his job. Saturday morning brought Nathan's counterattack. He arrived at Golden Years with reinforcements. Britney, plus a man in an expensive suit I didn't recognize. Dad, this is Dr. Marcus Webb. He's a psychiatrist who specializes in dementia cases. Dr. Webb stepped forward with a briefcase and a patronizing smile. Hello, Mr. Thompson. I'd like to ask you a few questions if that's all right. This wasn't a social visit. This was Nathan's desperate attempt to prove I really was incompetent. If he could get a medical professional to diagnose me with dementia, maybe he could overturn the trust decision. I suppose that would be fine, I said, shuffling to my chair, with just the right amount of confusion. Dr. Webb opened his briefcase and pulled out a tablet. I'm going to show you some images and ask you to identify them. Just do your best. For the next 20 minutes, I played the part perfectly. I forgot simple words. I couldn't remember what year it was. I stared blankly when he asked me to count backwards from 100. Nathan was nodding eagerly. Britney was taking notes. Dr. Webb was recording everything. Mr. Thompson, who is the current president of the United States? President? I'm not sure. Is it still Reagan? Dr. Webb glanced at Nathan with satisfaction. Can you tell me your son's name? I looked directly at Nathan, with genuine confusion. Nathan, no, that's not right. My son's name is Michael. Or maybe David. The look of triumph on Nathan's face was priceless. He actually thought this charade would save him. What Nathan didn't know was that Dr. Marcus Webb wasn't really a psychiatrist. He was Marcus Webb, former medical student, who'd lost his license 3 years ago for insurance fraud. I knew this because my private investigator, Richard Kowalski, had been watching Nathan's every move for the past week, and Richard was very, very good at his job. Based on this preliminary assessment, Dr. Webb announced, I believe Mr. Thompson is suffering from moderate to severe cognitive decline, consistent with Alzheimer's disease. There, you see, Nathan turned to Britney. Dad's not capable of managing a trust worth millions of dollars. This whole competency clause is ridiculous, but here's what they didn't know. The real Dr. Patricia Williams, the neurologist I'd been seeing for the past month, was sitting in her office at Riverside Medical Center, reviewing my actual cognitive assessment, the one that showed my mind was sharp as a steel trap. After they left, I called Kara Stone. How did the performance go? She asked. Oscar-worthy. But Kara, they brought someone claiming to be a psychiatrist. Marcus Webb. I know. Detective Hayes ran a background check this morning. Mr. Webb's medical license was revoked in 2021. He's facing 3 counts of fraud in San Bernardino County. So Nathan just committed another felony, using a fake doctor to obtain a fraudulent medical diagnosis. Oh yes, that's a lovely addition to his growing list of charges. Sunday brought Nathan's final desperate move. He arrived with papers, a petition to have me declared legally incompetent, backed by Dr. Webb's fake assessment. Dad, I'm sorry it's come to this, but I have to protect you from yourself. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking just fine, Nathan. No, you're not. He was losing control now, his mask finally slipping. Yesterday, you couldn't even remember my name. You thought Reagan was still president. You're living in a fantasy world. Maybe I am, I said quietly. Or maybe I'm just tired of pretending. Nathan froze. What? I reached into my shirt pocket and pulled out my cross-century pen. The same pen that had been recording every conversation we'd had for the past month. Maybe I'm tired of pretending to be the confused old man. You need me to be. The color drained from Nathan's face. What is that? It's a recording device. Digital audio. Crystal clear quality. I've got 23 hours of you and Britney planning to steal my house, planning to dump me on Medicaid, laughing about how easy it was to trick your confused father. Nathan's hands were shaking. That's illegal. You can't record people without their consent. Actually, California is a 2-party consent state, but there are exceptions for elder abuse cases. Isn't that convenient? Britney grabbed Nathan's arm. Let's go now. But Nathan wasn't finished. His desperation made him reckless. You can't do this to us. We've been taking care of you. We put our lives on hold to deal with your problems. My problems? I stood up, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't shuffle. I didn't slouch. I looked him straight in the eye. With the full authority of my 68 years, my only problem, Nathan, is that I raised a son who thinks stealing from his father is taking care of him. We weren't stealing. We were protecting your assets. By forging my signature? By lying to banks? By bribing a fake doctor to diagnose me with dementia? Nathan's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He had no answer because there was no answer. The trust is gone, Nathan. $4.8 million that will now go to the Riverside County Elder Abuse Prevention Foundation. But that's not your biggest problem. What do you mean? I smiled for the first time in weeks. A real smile. Detective Richard Hayes, from the Elder Abuse Unit, has been very interested in those recordings. He's filing charges on Monday morning. Nathan stared at me in horror. Charges: elder abuse, financial exploitation, conspiracy, fraud. The fake doctor was a nice touch. That's another felony. He had no idea I had a private investigator watching his every move. No idea that every crime had been documented, photographed, recorded. But he was about to find out. Monday morning, 9:30 a.m., Detective Richard Hayes arrived at Golden Years with a badge, a briefcase, and 30 years of experience hunting financial predators. Mr. Thompson, I'm Detective Hayes from the Elder Abuse Unit. I understand you have some recordings you'd like me to hear. I'd been waiting for this moment for weeks. Detective, I have more than recordings. I have a complete picture of systematic financial abuse. Hayes opened his briefcase and pulled out a digital recorder. Let's start from the beginning. For the next 2 hours, I walked Detective Hayes through Nathan's entire scheme. The recordings, the forged signatures, the fake doctor, the unauthorized withdrawals from my joint checking account that totaled 18,437s over 6 months. And you documented all of this? Everything. Times, dates, amounts, witnesses, Todd. I handed him a manila folder 3 inches thick. My private investigator has been tracking Nathan's activities since March 1st. Hayes opened the folder and whistled softly. Bank surveillance footage of him using your ATM card. Photos of him meeting with Dr. Webb. Excuse me, the fake Dr. Webb? Credit card statements showing he's been charging his daily expenses to your accounts. There's more. Richard, my investigator, discovered Nathan's been telling people, I'm already dead. What? He applied for life insurance payouts from my employer's policy, filed preliminary paperwork with Social Security, claiming I was deceased. He even contacted the Veterans Administration about survivor benefits. Hayes looked up from the folder. Your son was trying to collect death benefits while you're still alive. Gets better. He told his BMW dealer that he was inheriting money from his father's estate, used that as collateral to upgrade his lease. Then he told his landlord the same story, to negotiate a rent reduction. Detective Hayes was taking notes furiously. This isn't just elder abuse anymore. This is identity theft, insurance fraud, and about 6 other felonies. Oh, we're not done yet. I pulled out another folder. This one contained printouts from Nathan's social media accounts. Richard had been monitoring them for 2 weeks. Facebook post from March 10th, I said, pointing to a screenshot. Nathan writes, dealing with my father's declining health. It's hard watching someone you love fade away. Posted the same day he filed guardianship papers. Hayes shook his head, creating a false narrative. March 12th, the day he put me in here. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is make hard decisions. For family members who can't make them for themselves. Elder care, family first. Got 43 likes. And March 15th, when his inheritance vanished. Going through a difficult legal situation with family. Please keep us in your prayers. 27 comments offering support. Detective Hayes closed the folder. Mr. Thompson, in 30 years of investigating elder abuse, I've never seen documentation this thorough. It's like you built a legal case against your own son. I'm a structural engineer, Detective. I know how to build things that don't fall down. At 2:15 p.m., Detective Hayes returned with a warrant. Not for Nathan's arrest, not yet, but to search his apartment and seize his financial records. What they found exceeded even my expectations. A handwritten timeline of my supposed cognitive decline. Backdated 6 months? Nathan had been planning this for half a year. Bank statements showing he'd been siphoning money from our joint account since September. Small amounts at first, 40 here, 60 there, then larger withdrawals as he got bolder. A file folder labeled Dad's Estate, containing property assessments, probate forms, and a handwritten list of my assets. The list was surprisingly accurate, down to my collection of vintage hand tools, but the smoking gun was Nathan's laptop. Email correspondence with 3 different estate sale companies. Nathan had been shopping around. For the best prices on my furniture, my books, even my photograph albums. Everything I owned reduced to line items in a liquidation catalog. Subject line, complete estate sale, owner deceased. Detective Hayes read from the laptop screen. Dated March 8th, 4 days before. He actually put you in the facility. He was that confident it would work. There's more. Draft obituary. He wrote your obituary, Mr. Thompson. My own obituary written by my son, while I was still breathing. Edric Thompson, 68, passed peacefully after a courageous battle with Alzheimer's disease, Hayes read. He is survived by his loving son, Nathan, and daughter-in-law, Britney. A courageous battle with a disease I didn't have. Survived by the son who was trying to kill me financially. Detective, when do you make the arrest? Hayes closed the laptop and looked at me with something approaching awe. Tomorrow morning. But Mr. Thompson, I have to ask, why did you let this go so far? Why didn't you stop him earlier? I thought about that question for a long moment. Detective, I needed to know how far he'd go. I needed to know if my son was just greedy or if he was truly evil. Now I know. And what's your verdict? A greedy person steals money. An evil person writes your obituary while you're still alive. The judge was about to see everything. Every document, every recording, every photograph. Nathan's entire criminal enterprise, laid out like blueprints on a conference table. Justice was coming, and it was going to be absolutely devastating. Wednesday, March 20th, 10 a.m. sharp. Riverside County Superior Court, Department 12. The Honorable Judge Patricia Harrison presiding. I walked into that courtroom without a walker, without shuffling, without any pretense of confusion. For the first time in 3 weeks, I was simply Edric Thompson, retired structural engineer, widowed father, and the victim of an elaborate financial conspiracy. Nathan was already seated at the defendant's table, with his court-appointed attorney. Britney sat in the gallery behind him, clutching her coach purse like a life preserver. When Nathan saw me walk in under my own power, the color drained from his face completely. Your Honor, Kara Stone began, we are here today because the defendant, Nathan Thompson, attempted to declare his father mentally incompetent in order to steal his home, his life savings, and his dignity. What we discovered during our investigation was a pattern of financial abuse, so systematic, so calculated, and so cruel that it defies belief. Judge Harrison was a stern woman in her early 60s. She had been handling elder abuse cases for 15 years, and her reputation for harsh sentences was legendary. "Mr. Thompson," she said, looking directly at me, "I understand you have evidence to present." "I do, Your Honor." I approached the witness stand, with the composure I'd maintained for 30 years of engineering presentations. No trembling hands, no confused stammering, just facts. "For the record," I began, "my name is Edric Thompson. I am 68 years old. I hold a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. I designed and supervised construction of 12 major bridge projects in Southern California. I am not now, nor have I ever been mentally incompetent." "Then please explain to the court how this situation developed." "Your Honor, on March 11th at approximately 2:47 p.m., my son Nathan presented me with guardianship papers, claiming I had Alzheimer's disease. This was a complete fabrication, designed to steal my property. I pulled out my recording device. With the court's permission, I'd like to play some audio evidence." Judge Harrison nodded. "Proceed." The courtroom speakers crackled to life with Nathan's voice from that first day. "You're mentally incompetent, Dad. We're putting you somewhere safe." Then my own voice, calm and measured. "Okay, son, whatever you think is best." "Your Honor, what you just heard was the beginning of a performance. I was pretending to be confused because I wanted to document the full extent of my son's criminal behavior." Nathan's attorney stood up. "Objection, Your Honor. These recordings were made without consent." "Overruled," Judge Harrison snapped. "California Penal Code 368 specifically allows covert recording in suspected elder abuse cases." "Continue, Mr. Thompson." I played more recordings. Nathan and Britney laughing about my supposed gratitude. Nathan discussing moving me to Medicaid when the money ran out. Nathan celebrating the house sale before it even happened. With each recording, I watched Nathan sink lower in his chair. "Mr. Thompson," Judge Harrison said, "what financial losses did you suffer as a result of your son's actions?" "Direct theft from joint accounts, 18437. Unauthorized use of my credit cards, 4291. Property damage from his estate evaluation, approximately 1 to 500. "But, Your Honor, the real theft was much larger." "Explain." "Nathan attempted to steal my home, valued at $1.2 million. He attempted to steal my retirement accounts, totaling approximately $200,000, and he attempted to gain control of a family trust worth $4.8 million. A murmur went through the courtroom. Nathan's attorney whispered frantically in his ear, "But here's what Nathan didn't know, Your Honor. The trust contained a specific clause targeting exactly this type of behavior. Any beneficiary who attempts to declare me incompetent for financial gain automatically forfeits their entire inheritance." Judge Harrison leaned forward. "So your son's actions cost him nearly $5 million, plus interest, plus the charitable donation tax implications, plus his legal expenses." I looked directly at Nathan, "plus his freedom." Detective Hayes was called to testify next. He presented the evidence systematically. Bank surveillance footage, forged signatures, the fake doctor's fraudulent assessment, the social media posts, and Nathan's handwritten timeline of my supposed cognitive decline. "Detective Hayes," Caristone asked, "in your professional opinion, was this elder abuse premeditated?" "Absolutely. The evidence shows planning that goes back at least 6 months. The defendant created false documentation, established fake medical evidence, and even wrote his father's obituary while Mr. Thompson was still alive." Nathan's attorney made a desperate attempt at defense. "Your Honor, my client genuinely believed his father was suffering from dementia. He was acting out of concern." Judge Harrison cut him off. "Counselor, are you seriously suggesting that writing someone's obituary while they're still breathing is an act of concern?" "Well, no, but..." "And hiring a fake doctor to provide fraudulent medical testimony? That was a misunderstanding. And forging signatures on bank documents?" Nathan's attorney had no answer. But Nathan himself couldn't stay quiet. Against his lawyer's obvious advice, he stood up. "Your Honor, my father is manipulating everyone. Look at him. He's been pretending to have dementia this whole time. How can you trust anything he says?" The courtroom fell silent. Judge Harrison stared at Nathan with undisguised contempt. "Mr. Thompson," she said slowly, "are you suggesting that your father's ability to outsmart you somehow justifies your attempt to steal his life savings?" That's not what I meant, because it sounds to me like you're admitting that a man you claimed was mentally incompetent actually proved to be smarter than you are." Nathan's face turned bright red. "He tricked us. He defended himself against theft. There's a difference." Judge Harrison had heard enough. "Mr. Nathan Thompson, you are hereby found guilty of elder abuse under California Penal Code 368. You are guilty of financial fraud under Penal Code 484. You are guilty of identity theft under Penal Code 530.5. You are guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud under Penal Code 182. She paused, letting the weight of each charge sink in. "You attempted to steal your father's home. You stole money from his accounts. You forged his signature. You hired a fake doctor. You filed false insurance claims. You wrote his obituary. Mr. Thompson, I have presided over hundreds of elder abuse cases, and I have never encountered behavior this systematic or this cruel. Nathan was shaking now. His entire world was crumbling in real time. The court sentences you to 4 years in state prison. You will pay full restitution of $24.70. You are permanently barred from any contact with your father. And Mr. Thompson, Nathan looked up hopefully, your father's trust donation to the Elder Abuse Prevention Foundation will fund investigations into cases just like this one. In a way, you've helped protect other seniors from predators like yourself. I hope that gives you some comfort during your incarceration. As the bailiff approached Nathan with handcuffs, he looked at me one last time. Not with anger, not with defiance. With something much worse, with the dawning realization of what he had lost. Not just money. Not just freedom. His father, forever. The handcuffs clicked shut at 11:47 a.m. Nathan Thompson, who 3 weeks ago thought he was about to inherit millions, was now California Department of Corrections inmate number P47829. As the bailiff led him away, Nathan turned back one last time. Dad, please. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and felt something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction, not anger, just infinite sadness for what he'd thrown away. I'm sorry too, Nathan. Sorry it took me this long to see who you really are. The courtroom doors closed behind him, with a finality that echoed through my chest. But Nathan's consequences were just beginning. Within hours, the ripple effects spread through his life, like cracks in poorly constructed foundation. First, Britney. She'd been waiting in the courthouse parking lot, probably expecting Nathan to walk out with good news. Instead, she watched him leave in the back of a sheriff's van. By 3:30 p.m., she'd cleaned out their joint bank account, all $437, and disappeared. The apartment manager later told Detective Hayes that she'd left Nathan's belongings in garbage bags by the dumpster. The Coach purse she'd bought with my stolen money. She probably pawned it for gas money. Second, his job. Corporate middle management. Doesn't look kindly on employees with felony convictions. Nathan's supervisor called me personally to apologize. Apparently, Nathan had been telling everyone at work that he was dealing with his dying father's estate. Mr. Thompson, I'm so sorry. We had no idea Nathan was lying about your condition. We even sent flowers to the office for his loss. Flowers for my death while I was alive. Nathan's employment was terminated immediately. No severance, no references, just a box of personal items, shipped to an address that no longer existed, since Britney had abandoned their apartment. Third, the fake Dr. Marcus Webb was arrested that same afternoon. Turns out Detective Hayes had been tracking him for months in connection with other fraud cases. Nathan's scheme had just handed police the evidence they needed. Webb was charged with practicing medicine without a license, insurance fraud, and conspiracy. He'd probably spend more time in prison than Nathan would. But the most devastating consequence was still coming. That evening, I received a call from Nathan's cell. For a moment, I thought he'd somehow gotten access to a phone in jail. Then I heard Britney's voice. Edric, it's Britney. I need to tell you something. She was crying. Real tears. Not the manipulative kind I'd seen during Nathan's performances. I found something in Nathan's things. A letter. He wrote it months ago but never sent it. What kind of letter? To you. He was planning to send it after you died. A fake apology letter. Talking about how much he'd miss you. How grateful he was for everything you'd done for him. A posthumous apology. Written while he was actively stealing from me. Britney, why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know. None of this was my idea originally, but I went along with it. I encouraged it. I helped him steal from you, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. For the first time in weeks, someone in Nathan's orbit was telling me the truth. What are you going to do now? Leave town? Start over somewhere? Try to become the kind of person who doesn't help steal from old men? She paused. Edric, I know you'll never forgive us, but I want you to know Nathan really did love you once. Before the greed took over, before I helped poison him against you. She hung up before I could respond. Later that night, Detective Hayes called with an update. Mr. Thompson, we've recovered most of your stolen funds. The bank has reversed the unauthorized charges. Your credit rating has been restored, and the DA wants to use your case as a model for prosecuting elder abuse. What about the others? Others? Nathan can't be the only one doing this. How many other families are dealing with the same thing right now? Detective Hayes was quiet for a moment. More than you'd want to know. But here's the thing. Most victims don't fight back the way you did. Most of them really are vulnerable. They don't have the resources or the mental capacity to build a case like this. That's when I made my final decision. Detective, the $488 million from my trust. It's going to the Elder Abuse Prevention Foundation. But I want to add a condition. I want them to fund a program that teaches seniors how to protect themselves from their own children. That's brilliant. Actually, it's personal, because somewhere out there, another Nathan was probably having dinner with his elderly parents, calculating how much their house was worth. Another Britney was probably measuring rooms and pricing furniture. But there was one final twist coming, something that would ensure Nathan's story became a cautionary tale for anyone else considering betraying family trust. And it was going to hurt him in ways he couldn't possibly imagine. 6 months later, I was sitting in my own living room. For the first time since March, the house Nathan tried to steal was exactly as I'd left it, except now it truly felt like home again. The final twist came in a letter from Nathan's prison, not to me. I'd made it clear I wanted no contact. The letter was addressed to the Riverside County Elder Abuse Prevention Foundation, asking if he could volunteer for their education program. Nathan wanted to help prevent other people from making his mistakes. Kara Stone brought me the letter personally. He says he wants to tell his story as a cautionary tale, warn other adult children about how greed can destroy families. What did you tell them? That it's your decision. It's your foundation. Now, I thought about that for a long time. Nathan had destroyed our relationship, stolen from me, written my obituary, and tried to have me declared incompetent. But he'd also given me something valuable, proof that family loyalty should never be taken for granted. Tell them yes, I said finally, but with conditions. He serves his full sentence. He pays back every penny, and he never contacts me directly. Edric, are you sure? Kara, every month, dozens of families are torn apart by financial abuse. If Nathan's story prevents even one case, then something good comes from this nightmare. The foundation agreed. Nathan's recorded testimony became the centerpiece of their education program. When love becomes greed, a son's warning to other families. It's brutal to listen to. Nathan describes every step of his scheme, every justification he used, every moment he chose money over his father. But it's effective. Applications for the foundation's protection services have doubled since the program launched. I never remarried, never had other children. Nathan was it, my only shot at a family legacy. He threw it away for money he never even got to spend. But here's what Nathan never understood. I didn't need him to carry on my legacy. The bridges I designed will outlast both of us. The foundation his greed inadvertently created will protect thousands of seniors, and the recording of his betrayal will warn families for generations to come. Sometimes justice isn't about punishment. Sometimes it's about preventing the next victim. I still live in the house he tried to steal. Every morning I sit on the porch I built with my own hands and drink coffee from the mug his mother gave me 30 years ago. The sun rises over the 2 acres Nathan wanted to sell, and I remember what it feels like to be truly wealthy. Not wealthy in money, though the trust restructuring left me comfortable. Wealthy in dignity, wealthy in self-respect, wealthy in the knowledge that when tested I didn't break. Nathan will be released in 3.5 years. He'll be 42 years old with a felony record, no family, no inheritance, and a story that follows him everywhere he goes. I'll be 75, still living in my house, still protecting other seniors, still proving every day that underestimating your elders is the most expensive mistake you can make. The boy I raised to believe family comes first learned too late that it does, just not the way he thought. Family comes first when you protect it, not when you steal from it before saying goodbye. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Don't forget to subscribe for more true family betrayal stories that reminds us we are stronger than we think.